Today is November 4th, 2020. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Dr. Professor William Mackey series, lecture series in honor of African Helping Africans. Glad that you're here. Give yourself a hand. We have these lectures twice a month to give information to the community in honor of Dr. William Mackey Jr. Also, Louis Ray Rivera. Also, Gil Noble. And Dr. Amos Wilson. We honor these people. We honor Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, and all the people who gave up fame and fortune, big cars, a lot of money to bring truth to power, to try to wake people up. Elijah Muhammad, Al-Hajj Miguel Chavez, Malcolm X. We honor these people because they sacrificed. They sacrificed a lot. Martin Luther King could have went the other way. These people could have went the other way. They didn't. They chose the truth. And that's why we try our best to still honor them. And we never want to forget the work that Dr. Mackey, Gil Noble,
yes, sir,
did. Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Dr. Lewis was just telling us the greatness on Dr. Ben taking us back to Kemet and letting us see. You got it? So, over here we have the Amos collection. All proceeds from these books go back to Sababa, from African World Info Systems. So we can help him in his continued work that he does for Amos Wilson. Blueprint for Black Power. Louis Ray Rivera, classic, Jazz and Jazz. The developmental psychology of the black child. Falsification of African consciousness. Amos Wilson's classic, Black on Black Violence, Psychodynamics of Black Self-Annihilation in service of white domination. You hear a lot about black on black violence throughout the United States, Africa. And they're trying to blame everything that it's our fault. We just ain't doing right. Let's go back to the good old days. All this. He gives an analysis of it. Issues of manhood in black and white. Awakening the natural genius of black children. African consciousness versus the New World Order. And the latest, the psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat towards a reclamation of the African mind. Sababa redid this. It's excellent. And Brother Hassan to tell you. And S.K. Demani, Distorted Truths, the Bastardization of African Cosmetology. That's these books that we sell. And the proceeds go back to Sababa and Amos collection. So we got a day after the election, which is the biggest hoopla in the country, you know, and everybody wants to know. I even was tricked and staying in front of my TV all the way to 3 o'clock in the morning, wondering if this and that and this and that and this and that. Like I said before, the circus intent, you know. So without further ado, being that we're running late, we have one of the co-founding members of 100 Blacks in Law Enforcement, where his program, Community Cop, comes on every Tuesday at 5 o'clock, Manhattan Neighborhood Network. Brilliant. Also, Saturday, Sister Empress Chi, Blog Talk Radio. You tune in to Blog Talk. You scroll down, you type in Empress G on the search, you scroll down. New Resurrection, you hit that at 10:30, it'll come into the new program, and you'll be up. Also on Thursdays, Thorough Black Talk with Tad, Keisha, and Ashe. You go into YouTube, you search in, you put in Thorough Black Talk, 8 o'clock tomorrow. Tad, Keisha, and Ashe have excellent program, you know. But Mike Graves, Noel Lita, Julian Harper, and the Community Cop program is excellent. So, I'm just going to read one thing from Alton that Alton wrote, and he sent me the email, and I'm going to read this right quick before I bring Brother Mike on. And this is from the University of Alton Maddox. Blacks Made America Great by Alton H. Maddox, the real attorney at war. 242 years ago, the framers of the U.S. Constitution penned the law of the land. These framers were white men only. The body politics of 1776 consisted of special interest groups, peer pressure groups. The pressure groups also consisted of white men only. These pressure groups demanded a Bill of Rights, or all bets was off. It demonstrated that organized pressure could trump executive power. The framers had penned Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution prohibiting the cessation of the slave trade until after 1808. This was economic forecasting on supply and demand. However, after the American Revolution, the number of emancipated blacks and free blacks grew steadily. In 1816, under President James Monroe, whites formed the American Colonization Society, ACS, also known as the American Society for Colonizing the Free People of Color in the United States. It was a national organization dedicated to promoting the manumission of enslaved and the settlement of free blacks to Sierra Leone in white Africa. When this plan failed, ACS purchased land in what is now Liberia. By the 1850s, this country had freed blacks in addition to enslaved blacks. Freed blacks were not envisioned under the U.S. Constitution. Many of these freed blacks were inventors and intellectuals. This special interest group, left unchecked, ruled the roost. These inventors and intellectuals would become the captains of industry. However, the Civil War ended this phenomenon. President Abraham Lincoln made a choice to push the pedal to the metal to implement Reconstruction under the 1877 Compromise. The black experiment included black political representation ended. Blacks would be ineligible to legally seize any opportunity to form its own special interest group and its own pressure group. Congressman George White of Princeville, North Carolina, in 1901 would be the last black member of Congress. Blacks would no longer be federal title holders until 1929. Fast forward today is Black Solidarity Day, an African-American holiday founded in 1969 by activist and historian Carlos E. Russell, and it's based on the play Day of Absence. It was inspired by this fictional play, Day of Absence by Douglas Turner Ward. It is annually observed on the first Monday of November, the day before Election Day, because invariably does happen the day before Election Day. The general inference was that group power could positively affect political elections to the benefit of blacks. Blacks had more than a year to be entertained by Joe Biden and Donald Trump. It reminds me of a church revival when blacks were disenfranchised. The congregation would sing, "Hush, hush, somebody's calling my name." After the 1965, the song changed to "Hush, hush, nobody's calling my name." Black Solidarity Day is also defined by a peaceful absence from everyday activities in opposition to racism and to social and civil injustices. It is a time for the black community to assess collectively priorities, political and economic power, and make the plan for the future. On November 3rd, 2020, when blacks go to the poll, they should be driven by help,
history, ethics, logic, and philosophy. We should have the passion to vote in the best interest of our children, as Dr. Lewis was stating to us. Black children should not have to swim for themselves. For example, menticide and discriminatory treatment of black children in public schools perish unabated. Precise, unabated. Also, parents in the tradition of United African Movement in 1994 must institute sleepaway summer camps to bolster survival skills and self-identity for our children. From an African perspective, children should not have to suffer from the compromise of 2020. Also in 1994, United African Movement sought to form and operate the Freedom Party, an independent political party to protect, amongst other rights, the equal rights of our children to a wholesome existence and to dispel the notion of white paternalism. In 2010, a miracle happened in New York. The primary Freedom Party made the ballot. In general, the election, however, New York misplaced 191,000 ballots, and only 50,000 votes of these ballots would have enabled the Freedom Party to be a politically recognized political party with automatic ballot status. The Freedom Party could have become, in 6 years, a political force nationwide. The Freedom Party, like Fannie Lou Hamer and Kwame Ture in 1964, is opposed to plantation politics. President Trump claims that the election is rigged, has merit. The Freedom Party saw its first hand in 2010. In addition, Bush 41 also experienced it in 1992. Earlier, international bondholders met and gave Bush 41 a thumbs down. The Electoral College was in accord. William Jefferson Clinton was given the crown. The night of the mayhem problems we were facing, Black Solidarity Day should not be a one-night stand to enjoy political rights. Blacks must have their own bargaining unit. Senator Charles Sumner of Massachusetts gave blacks this during Reconstruction. John Henry Clark hit the nail on the head. Blacks refused to listen. Pressure groups would get busy today with a study group and signal callers, a law library. Our problems are mirrored in legalese. If blacks are unable to address their problems with legalese, white supremacists will elevate the struggle to military science. This means a military plan which encompasses 1, goals, 2, times tables, 3, strategies, and 4, tactics. Philosophically, Freedom Party is unable to endorse either the Democratic Party or Republican Party. However, Freedom Party must remain in the hunt. After this presidential election, economic sanctions may be in order to include a withdrawal of black dollars on Black Friday. The winner of the 220 presidential sweepstakes will not solve our problems. Self-determination will. The Negro cannot win if he is willing to sell the future of his children for his personal and immediate comfort and safety. Dr. Martin Luther King. Your contributions to the free and educational press will be greatly appreciated. Alton H. Maddox. Thank you very much. And now, we're going to get to the keynote speaker, Brother Mike Graves, co-founder of the
Say I am.
I am.
Because we are. I am.
I am.
Because we are.
Because we are.
Certainly it's good to be here tonight. And, from the outset, let's have a hand for Dr. Lewis. If you were here 2 weeks ago, oh my goodness. He did some work. I mean, I'm used to seeing him But 2 weeks ago it was exceptional. And I raved about it and told everybody. I intentionally messed with people that wasn't here and said, man, you missed it. You know, but I'm sure the DVD, I guess, will be available. But outstanding. Want to also thank Brother Ray because many of us here do not know the sacrifices that he makes to make this happen. So want to thank him for all the sacrifices and what it took for him to get us back reassembled here is very important because knowledge and information as we exchange things is very important for all of us. And in that way, we all are made better because the more informed you are in this land of war, you know, we at war whether you are participating in it or not. You know, you might be on the battlefield or you might choose safer ground, but we, you know, make no mistake about it. We are in war, you know, and it's not a fair war, especially if you're not doing your part, because we have the smaller numbers and the smaller armory and the things we have, and they buy our best minds in various schools and various jobs where the best they've already employed in many situations. So we are at a deficit on every level, so we need everybody to participate. So based on that, I would say even this is significant and it's important for our survival, and hopefully we'll get to a point where maybe, who knows, maybe if this a state of normality occurs, we can get together again and build, have more people here and have more participation. But as of now, we'll work with what we have. Now, from the outset, I want to talk a little bit about self-identity. What time am I breaking? Who knows? What time am I
Go
breaking?
ahead, probably about 10 after 9, you know.
Okay.
But I bring the stuff is right here.
Okay. Okay. So what we're gonna do is talk about that, and I want us to take a better look at each other and also look inside, a little introspection, and we can find out how we can improve and what we can do better. So from the outset, I want to, I know Ray just did a lot of reading, but I want to read my favorite poem because now this poem was written now, like about 70 years ago, but it's my favorite, and maybe when you hear it, maybe it will become one of your favorites. But it's worth saying because for battle, for self-improvement, it's awesome. And it's by Claude McKay, and some of you might even know right now what poem I'm talking about by Claude McKay, one of the brothers in the Harlem Renaissance. It's called If We Must Die. Some of you might be familiar with it. If we must die, let it not be like hogs, hunted and pinned in an inglorious spot, while round us bark the mad and hungry dogs, making their mock at our accursed lot. If we must die, oh, let us die nobly, so that our precious blood may not be shed in vain. Then even the monsters we defy shall be constrained to honor us, though dead. O kinsmen, we must meet the common foe. Though for most outnumbered, let us show us brave, and for their 1,000 blows, deal one death blow. What though before us lies the open grave? Like men will face the murderous cowardly pack, possessed, pressed to the wall, dying but fighting back. That's a call to arms. If I had James Earl Jones' voice, I would have said it more poetically. But he's saying, if you're gonna die, there's an open grave, you're going there. But die nobly, not like hogs, waiting to be slaughtered. He said, fight. He said, what are you afraid of? The grave is for you. He said, fight like men. So, I'm saying that to say that he's invoking a certain spirit that you don't normally get from a writer, from somebody writing poetry. It's a call to arms. Now, Cabral said, or I'll just say, before I even say Cabral, many have questioned it, so it's hard to say who actually did it, but the question always was, who am I? Am I who I think I am? And am I all I'm supposed to be? Who am I? Now, if I asked you here today, I'm afraid to, so I won't. But if I asked you who you are, we might get 5, 6, 10 different answers from different people. And you'll be sincere in your response, but I'm afraid that it might be truly less than adequate. If I pressed you and said, are you who you think you are? Now, that assuredness might be lessened. You're not sure because you think it's a trick question and I got you. It's not going to be no got you moments here tonight. So, I want you to think about that. And then the last part of that was, am I all I'm supposed to be? I would challenge everybody here and say we can do better. We have to do better. Now with that, as quickly as I say that, Cabral said this part about mass no difficulties, tell no lies, and claim no easy victories. Why did he say that? The road gonna be difficult. It's gonna be hard. He said, don't bash your difficulties, you air them out. You know, and then it said, tell no lies, so don't lie about it. And then he goes on to end it with, claim no easy victories. So, a lot of us major in minor, instead of majoring in major. So, in that way, we on point. You know, in the military, you were taught to call things by its proper name. You identify, and then from once you identify something, you can have definition with respect to, is that a potential threat and what do you do about it? You don't call people false names, so you're not going to call some weak coward a soldier. We got to identify who the soldiers are. We have to identify who's around us and give it definition. A chair is not a roof or a ceiling. It's not a floor, it's a chair. And so you don't deal in illusions. You have to deal with what's right, and sometimes looking at things that way can be painful, but there's no way around it. Even the expressions in song, you know, lift every voice and sing to earth and heaven ring. Lift your voice. Ring with the harmony of liberty. So you're singing about something. singing about liberty, freedom. Not about doing in the butt, you know, and how bragging about how much drugs you sell. And when you come into the club, everybody know to hit the floor. That's the kind of stuff we doing now. Engaging in foolishness. And I don't have a problem with a brother doing rap, making money. But you can make sense at the same time. And you could tell that person who's in charge of that industry, or your studio, your manager, what have you, that, you know, you can make sense and it can sell too. Because what's selling all of this stuff more often than not are the rhythms. Those are African rhythms, the rhythms you hear from James Brown, still being used to this day, and Parliament Funkadelics, you know, the Commodores, these certain beats, because those are the beats of our heart. That was the secret to James Brown. He did it off the one instead of on the one. He went off the one. And that beat, he said, was the rhythm of his heart. And that rhythm still holds true to this very day. You know, it would be very difficult to play a James Brown song and you're going to start bobbing your head and you're going to start moving, whether you want to or not, because that's the rhythm of your heart. And that's what the enemy understands and knows that. So there's a line in "Stormy the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod." Well, what was meant by that? Stormy the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod. So it's not going to be pleasant fighting. What did James Weldon Johnson, why did he write this? And this is what we call a black national anthem. Well, that's so totally different from America's national anthem, talking about bombs bursting in the air and all of that. You know, just so unprincipled and so ethical and so warlike. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears. Profound. James Weldon Johnson. True to our God, true to our native land. Are we true to our God? Or are you true to the white man's God? Did Dr. Ben beat his brains out by telling you that no people can advance when the God you see looks like your enemy? Can't advance. Didn't Dr. Amos Wilson work on your mind? His whole life was dedicated to destroying white supremacy. Dr. Amos Wilson, who we honor here as one of the people, you know, one of the people we honor is not only Professor Mackey, it's Dr. Amos Wilson. Many of you probably had an opportunity to see him and hear him, shake his hand. Incredible. No, the baddest by far. It's two people in psychology that you can't get around. One is Dr. Amos Wilson. The other one is Sister Frances Cress Welsing. Those two, incredible. The material that they was able to cover, incredible. I want to talk about the bad side of that, you know, with respect to, oh man, you know, her last days and how we were not on point in protecting her with the pressure that she was under, you know, to sell our house and the way the enemy always attacked. And then even you got some black so-called scholars that would attack her, you know, and yet you can't refute what she said. You can only refute what you believe was her motivating factor in saying it. So the decision to fight is a difficult one. and it's a painful one. But we have to look at each other and check out where we are. I'm going to talk about the fear factor in a minute. But here's what. Freedom or reality is something in your mind. The image you have it's more important. It takes priority over literally everything. We think we react to situations. We don't react to situations. We react to images. The image is going to dictate what you do. Therefore, you see a pit bull, you're going to deal with that pit bull based on the image and the concepts you have developed about pit bulls as opposed to a poodle. You know, you're going to move out the other way when you see a certain type of dog, a Doberman, or you see a Rottie. But when you see that pit bull, it's a big difference in a poodle. It's doing like this, and the pit bull is walking like this. And you hear him breathing. It's a difference. Therefore, you're going to react differently. So, I'm saying that to say that you identify based on the image. Your whole concept of when you see another black man walking down the block and you walking, you don't want to give way to that black man. You literally gonna make him walk around you. That's sick. You don't do that to white folks. But somehow you gonna walk up and make him walk around you. And then you feel good about it. Well, I already said, claim no easy victories. Don't look at that like I punked him. The brother might be humble. He might have just, was texting or daydreaming, and he realized you close up on him, and he walked around you. It wasn't that he's a punk. It's just that he understood, we have to get along that way. But some of us don't understand the basics of that. So we look at it as, you did something, you accomplished something. No good. We got to get better than that. If we look at self, we have to understand that we're one people. I'm not going to get into Pan-Africanism yet, but that's a concept by which you identify black men and women, sight unseen, based on similar experiences. Even if they're different cultures afoot, you identify with the blackness, and y'all should be together. In other words, if you were in Bensonhurst or Sheepshead Bay, and you see a black man, and you're surrounded by a white community, primarily, let's say, Italian, and you see him, you mean you're not going to say, "What's up, man? How you doing?" Be crazy not to. He might be the one that's going to save you if they decide to pull out baseball bats in the middle of the winter, which they used to do. Nobody should have a baseball bat in the wintertime. Right? It's cold outside. So when you see them with bats, there's some bad intentions. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because we carry a poison in us. It's not your fault. It's been put in us, this Negro chip from birth. We have an anti-feeling, a poison. It's like a virus that's in us, and we got beef with each other. It's similar to going into a store. This is just, if this is you, then check yourself. It is like going into a black store. First of all, did anybody shop Monday? Did anybody here shop Monday? If you shop with a black person, fine. But if you bought you a sandwich, an egg sandwich in the morning, or any kind of thing, Monday you was out of order, unless it was a black person. You should not have shopped with white people on Black Solidarity Day. But in any event, it is like going into a black store. They got to be perfect with you. If they mess up one little thing, you say, I'm never going here again. Why? What is in you? What has been planted in your minds that you stop shopping with a black merchant? Literally just like that. But you can go to Macy's, you can get followed around the store, and people will come out of nowhere saying, can I help you? And you take that. You are insulted every time you go into a white store, but you take it. You feel, I got a credit card, I got the money to purchase this. Why they, coming over there asking me, can you help? Say, no, I don't need any help. They're going to come back over because they're going to rush you out of there. They're going to get you out of there. It's mainly white people in stores. You remember that Timberland said they didn't want black people wearing their shoes, their products.
Yeah.
Black people did the opposite. You remember that?
I remember that.
Everybody went out and started buying Timbs. Now, wait about one more month. Go outside and see what every young black man has on in December, January, February, March. Timbs. They said they didn't want that. So we went out and bought it. You don't think they knew that? They have a course at Harvard that teaches you how to make money off black folks. Where they got it down to a science. They will tell you, a black person that goes in the store want to see a well-lit store and want to see shiny objects. You might not agree with it, but it's true. You want things shiny, and that attracts you. So you go into a dollar store where you wanted one thing from the dollar store, and you end up spending a whole lot of money in that dollar store. They already know that. They put some shiny things around. Supermarkets have cookies right when you walk in the door and different things because they know. They understand these courses. They understand what you about. Is it an accident that Chinese restaurants, the first place they set up when they come to the country, is in black communities? How do Koreans know that they can successfully open up a vegetable and fruit stand right near you? Who told them to invest all of their money into a nail salon? Who told them that they can do that in a black area? You can build up later and get you a big fancy Chinese restaurant, maybe in a white area, but where do you make the money first? Among blacks. Where do Indians and Pakistanis, where do they make their money from first? Among blacks. I remember Korean merchants, they have a federation that finances them. What do? They tell them, look, we're going to set you up $50,000, get you a place, we're going to find a place for you and set you up. And they always start off first in a black community. Why are we so anxious to buy from them? Unfortunately, you can set up right now a great cleaners in Crown Heights. Set it up. Invest, buy your cleaners. And then make the prices real low. You clean a shirt, let's say $1. Where, let's say the average shirt clean, let's say costs $2. You charge $1. See how many Jews come into your store in Crown Heights. Or do the same thing in Williamsburg. Do they have to tell each other? Don't shop there? You think the rabbi got to tell them, don't patronize you? They already know that from birth. They ain't shopping with you. They're going to go to the cleaners a few doors down that charge them $2 to clean the shirt. They don't care how good you clean or how well you press and your collar look good and the rest of the shirt, everything is fine. You care less. Why? Because they've been trained to support their own. Dr. Amos Wilson was always working hard, crying his heart out to prepare you for a real African revolution. A revolution of the mind. That's what he was working on. Our minds. We just didn't get it. Dr. Ben and others. And since this, today is in 1965, the day that Dr. William Leo Hansberry passed, this is the day he, made his transition. You have to remember that he was Dr. Ben before Dr. Ben. Dr. Leo Hansberry, he set up he was a pioneer of those first Pan-African conferences that are held all over the world. He was one of the ones that set it up. He taught at Howard University, got his bachelor's as well as his master's from Harvard, and then went on to get advanced degrees at Oxford, University of Chicago, did his postgraduate work there, and I think taught at Dillard for a while before he eventually landed at Howard. And the thing about it is, you have to remember back in the 1930s. I'll give you an example. Dr. Hansberry was in a classroom, I think it was during the time he was getting his master's at Harvard. The class was being taught by George Reisner, Dr. George Reisner. Now this guy was the top Egyptologist in the world, top dog. And he was teaching a class that Egypt was white. Ancient Egypt was white. Now you can't say that in front of a man with the principles of Dr. Hansberry. Dr. Hansberry sat quietly for a while in the back, and he did the same thing that a Dr. Lewis would do. Raised his hand. When he raised his hand, Reisner knew who Dr. Hansberry was. Knew, was familiar with him. He said yes. He said, excuse me, sir, but ancient Kemet was black. He said, no, it wasn't. George Reisner, the doctor, who not only was he at Harvard, but ran the Boston Museum, the part dealing with paleontology and all that, and ancient civilizations. He said, no, they're not. They're white. And so, Dr. Hansberry, knowing that I'm challenging the instructor's authority, I need an historical basis. So, Dr. Hansberry said, well, I've read Hippocrates. I mean, not Hippocrates. Who's their father in music? What?
Plato.
Who?
Plato.
No, not Plato.
Homer.
His name is on the tip of my tongue. It'll come back in a minute. He says that the one who
Socrates?
No. It actually was Hippocrates. Hippocrates, who was there, went to Egypt during that time, and because he was the doctor that did the medical stuff his name will come back to me in a minute.
The one that wrote the Iliad?
Yeah, the one who wrote the
Homer.
Iliad.
Homer wrote the
Homer wrote the Iliad. Well, that's their first book,
Mhm.
but it was actually I forgot his name because it really. But then again, or let's say for these purposes, let's say it was Hippocrates. It'll come back to me in a minute who it was. But he said, according to Hippocrates, he said, I was there and I saw the people. He said they were black. So when Dr. Hansberry told George Reisner that we have an eyewitness to the account that the people of ancient Kemet was black. You know what Dr. Reisner said? I don't care what anybody said. And he said, but he was there. He said, right, and I'm here right now and I'm an instructor and they were white. Period. So, you know, and of course later when he tried to get a PhD under Dr. Reisner, do you know what he said to him? Without no students around? He said to him, no, we don't teach niggas. He said, we don't give niggas PhDs in Egyptology. Because he wanted it specifically in Egyptology. And he told him that. No niggas getting a PhD from me. Because he was the top dog. Now, I don't know why I even mentioned it, but it just came to mind. But, because this is the day he makes transition, that's why I mentioned it. But just remember, he was Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, Dr. Jeffries, Sheikh Anta Diop. He was that before then. Gotta remember that. So we got soldiers that sacrificed. And Dr. Hansberry, unfortunately, some of you are more familiar with his niece, who wrote Raisin in the Sun, Lorraine. You know, than him. But he made sacrifices, and we should be clear on that. That those soldiers, we got to honor them the same way white folks honor theirs. They honor killers. You know, if you were general, whether it was the Confederacy or whether your Schwarzkopf in Desert Storm, they honor their own. We have to reach a level where we can honor our own. So you have to remember, this was done coming out of slavery, Jim Crow, all kind of segregation, and this brother stood up strong and made that an issue, jeopardizing his opportunity to get advanced degrees. But he did it. How many of us stood in classrooms and was told that Columbus discovered America? We ain't say nothing. When they gave out the test, what did we put there? Columbus discovered America. Somebody should have said, no. I was at a Dr. Clark lecture, and Dr. Clark said the only thing Christopher Columbus discovered is that he was lost. That's what the right answer was. He was lost, and he was on this side of the world, and he thought he was in India. So he named these people Indians. But that's not the answer that they were looking for. So, okay, I'm going to 9:10?
Yeah.
Okay, so in any event, we have to get better. So while we're doing introspection, we have a need to belong. And this is the deep part that we have to understand, and we don't want to admit it. But we have the need to belong to white people. You don't feel you've arrived until you get around white folks and you think you are accepted. You think you can move on their block. You think that going to their schools and you get some sheepskin from their schools somehow makes you. You have letters behind your name. You think you made it. You might have a good salary. You know, you might be in the high-tech field and doing things where you find you might be the only black in the office, you, a few Asians, and you think you've arrived. And that's a need in some of us. Some of us feel a need to be accepted by them. That's that Negro chip that's inside of us. Because why do you want to be accepted by those that reject you? I mean, you know, the Nation of Islam used to raise that question about why does the Negro love the white man so much? And Elijah Muhammad's response was because the white man gives them nothing. That's incredible. Why does the Negro love the white man so much? And his answer was because the white man gives him nothing. He said, why do you think that if the white man don't treat you right, he'll teach your children right? It's incredulous to believe for a second that they're going to teach your children to be on an equal basis with their children. It goes against every principle of white supremacy. These schools are not unsuccessful in what they're doing. They're successful. We always say, oh no, this is a bad school. They don't have it right. You don't think they know how to teach their own? Man, they don't put something on the moon if it's true. I've heard people say otherwise, but if it's true that they can put a machine on the moon and then come back to Earth, you don't think they can teach you basic arithmetic, basic writing, where you have subject-verb agreement in a sentence? You don't think they can do that? You don't think that they can make the transition smooth from junior high school to high school? They could do that with their eyes closed if they wanted to. Is there going to be a class clown or two? Yeah, but sometime the class clown will eventually be successful. Richard Pryor, Jamie Foxx, Red Fox, you know, but that aside, they understand there's a level of brilliance to them. It's really no such thing as a failing school, it's a failing system. Because its intent is to train you in such a way that you will eventually experiment with drugs, experiment with alcohol. You have white people convincing you that a little weed, there's nothing wrong with it. You have some of us that fall into it, you know, and I'm not isolating in any way the Rastafarian movement, but you cannot convince me that smoking something that throws off your sense of time and space, you can't tell me that's good for me. If I don't understand the exact amount of feet that I am from Dr. Lewis, and I have a distorted now sense of time, don't tell me that makes me more creative. Man, I don't, you know, you got musicians, whether it was Miles Davis, they experimented with drugs, and certainly, what's his name from the saxophone, Coltrane, and others, all had drug habits. And some of them had the temerity to say they get a little more creative. Your African mind was creative because there was no such thing as jazz before then. There was no such thing as blues before us. We go back to the cornfield ditties, things we sang during slavery time. Slave master didn't understand. How could they work so hard in the field all day long and they sing? They don't understand that. They didn't understand it then, they don't understand it now. That's your African cosmology coming out. Because they don't understand. They don't know what call and response is. They don't understand that if one person is saying something and now the other people, if you say, go down Moses, or you sing, swing low, sweet chariot, and they'll come in, coming for to carry me home. And he'll say, swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. You know, and they don't understand that. They say, when somebody is talking a certain kind of way in church, they call it, oh, well, that's a kumbaya. They don't even understand to this day, in 2020, there's no such thing as kumbaya. That was our people saying, come by here. But you say it in spirit. So, you know, even black people now adopt their thinking in their language and say, oh, that's a kumbaya moment. What are you talking about? We ain't never said kumbaya. That's what they heard. We would say, oh, Lord, come by here. Come by here, Lord, come by here. Because we catching hell. Lord, come by here. And they heard kumbaya. Sick. And now we follow their sickness and don't even understand what we're saying. So, this need to belong, how deep is that in our minds? How crazy are we to follow those that have oppressed us? I'm trying to think of what they call that. What is that syndrome called, Dr. Lewis? Not the Helsinki. What is it called? When you impose on yourself what has been imposed on you. Where you become so sick because you're in a captured state. So it translates to something as simplistic as the boss is giving you hell all day on the job. Screaming on you, do this, do that. You don't do nothing right. And you come home. And when you get home, if your food ain't done, if your bed ain't exactly right, you scream on your queens. And you say the same things. And you dumb, you lazy, you can't get that right. You know, I've been working all day, but she's been working all day too. But you complain. The food ain't right, this ain't this ain't that. And if she says something back, the backhand is coming. Now you've been spoke down to all day long, and it's building up in you. So you go home, and the queen, the wife, gets the backhand. And don't let any of the children say anything, or they're gonna get it too. And then you're gonna go outside, you're gonna drink liquor with the fellas, and dare her to say a word. If she say a word, she gonna get it. You outside spending money you don't need to spend. You drinking liquor with your friends and come in when you want to. And you don't expect her to even ask you, where were you? What's going on? I'm just saying that that's a sickness, so Ray Ray gave you the sign to just wrap it up for now. So I'll stop there, but I want you to think about, you know, we'll come back and go a little further with it. Just things we do so casually that we can correct overnight. I'll end by saying, in the course of a day, how many times do you hear the word nigger? If you have an aversion to that word, I would suggest don't get on a bus. Don't get on the train. you're gonna hear,
Don't come outside.
my nigga, what up, nigga? You a fake nigga. You a jive nigga. You a MF nigga. Nigga, you ain't blank. You gonna hear that all day long. Now, what if you said to the brother, brother, do you realize that that's what they called us on the plantation? Man, I don't want to hear that black sugar honey iced tea. I don't want to hear that. That's what they're gonna say to you. Oh man, I don't want to hear that black stuff. Come on, man. What you a Muslim or something? As if Muslims don't use the word nigga. You out of your mind? So, I'm just saying there's things that we can correct, and I'm going to stop there by saying it's things we can correct overnight. We don't need permission from white people. Simple things that we can do. We'll go a little deeper after the break, but we'll stop right there.
Okay. Thanks, Brother Mike. We got water, refreshments right there, bathrooms to the left. We got juice and help yourself. We got napkins right there if you want to cut things. We got cookies right there if you want. So help yourself for 15 minutes, and then Brother Mike, 10 minutes, and Brother Mike will come back. Okay, good.
Or they'll try to ration.
You know, and you were in caves, crawling on all four, beating each other in the head with sticks, taking each other's wives, while we, dressed in silk, had city-state governments, understood the concept of government, understood the concept of law, while you were running around grabbing women and beating up their supposed mate, doing that and running her back into a cave, doing all that stuff, cracking each other's skull. That's why when you go to ancient ruins in France and Germany, look at the ruins. They all got busted heads. You think I'm lying? I ain't making this up. Look at them. Look at the ones that's their bodies still survive to this day. They all got a hole this big in their head from a club, beating each other up like that. And you could look at the corpses that were wrapped and preserved by us. That's what Cheikh Anta Diop did. He gave us back that land in a medical way and linguistically. So it's no doubt who the ancients were. And we go back as a Nile Valley experience. We're talking about 10,000 years or more of civilization. And then the pyramids themselves, first one built by, Imhotep, 3rd dynasty under King Zoser. And then later the ones built by Khufu, incredible, the Great Pyramid. White folks, how can Dr. Reisner say they built it when you have to ask the fundamental question? If they built it, where is the architecture to show fundamentally that they did that? Show it in Europe where they built anything. You mean you're going to save your best for Africa? That you're going to build pyramids in Africa and then you're going back home to icy Europe? It don't make sense. How do you go to a foreign land, build something, and then go back to the caves? It don't make sense. But at any rate, let's, with self-identity, a few things we got to get done right away. Fear and terror. This is a culmination of 400 years of that, so we always should be clear on who our open enemy is after 4 centuries. I know we're concerned and we're going to say things like, well, I got to get my degree first, or I got to maintain my job. Well, that's understandable. You want to feed your family, but there has to be a line of demarcation. There's somewhere where you got to say, nobody can cross this line. The decision to fight is one of the greatest decisions you'll ever make. And it's difficult. I'm not saying it's not. You know, Dr. King used to have people saying what Jesse became famous for later. Say I am somebody, and say I am somebody, and, you know, church sayings to energize people to march to downtown Montgomery, or to march to areas where they might get their head busted. So you got to energize them. So, you know, there were tactics that was used. You put women in the front of the march, or you put children in the front of the march, and the men were in the back a lot of times. Why do you do that? Because you want to minimize the collateral damage that you might receive. So fear and terror is a factor in why we are the way we are. I'm not giving you an excuse, I'm just saying it is what it is. We fear unemployment. We fear the knife, the gun, the nightstick. We fear those things.
I think that's intelligent.
Dependency. Yeah, well, you know, it's not a question of intelligence. We produce a lot of intelligent folks. I would never say that Dr. Henry Louis Gates is unintelligent. I'm sure he is. I'm sure that so many of us that are at various Ivy League colleges, they're intelligent. He said he's not black. And he said, if I ain't black, then certainly my children from my white wife, they ain't black either. He characterized what Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark taught as pseudo history.
Pseudo-scholarship.
He said it was pseudo history.
Yeah.
He said it was feel good history.
Yeah.
First of all, we have the right to feel good. If somebody knows how to make you feel good, uplift you, and make you better, that's fine. But don't tell me that Dr. Clark wasn't accurate, that Dr. Ben wasn't accurate and on point with his teachings. Don't tell me now, as we speak right now, Dr. J don't know what he's talking about. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me that Dr. Lewis don't know what he's talking about. No, they know. So, what Henry Louis Gates, you know, and you have so many other scholars that choose employment over principles. And you wonder and you hope deep down inside that the day is going to come where they're going to so-called flip on them. It's not going to happen. If you wait for Clarence Thomas to turn on Chief Justice Roberts and the rest of them in the Supreme Court, all I can tell you is don't hold your breath. He has been consistent. He gives no opinions on anything. He just rolled with whether it was Alito, Scalia, Robertson, he rolled with them hard. You know, that decision they made, see, white folks don't miss much. When they pick you, now you know who you replaced. Everybody here know who you replaced, Thurgood Marshall. Now, Thurgood Marshall might not have been a perfect man, but he would never, on his worst day, do what Justice Thomas is doing. Never.
Isn't he married to a Bush also?
He was married to a white woman when he.
Well, he married to a white woman.
When he got in.
I'm saying, isn't she's a Bush relative?
Yes.
No,
yes,
she's
yes.
related to,
That's Barbara Bush's niece.
I think it's not the Bush family, it's, I think it's something like second
wait,
cousins or first cousins.
That's
Yeah.
George
Yeah.
W. Bush.
But it doesn't matter.
All
It
right.
doesn't matter. The reason why it doesn't matter, I'm gonna tell you something. I learned something 2 weeks ago.
You said it doesn't matter?
No, it doesn't matter.
I mean, it's just, but it's a point.
No, don't get me wrong.
Oh, okay.
That's why I just said a white woman, it don't matter.
Right. Just,
Similar to Cameron. Cameron was married to one of the U.S. senators. She's a niece to one of the U.S. senators. It doesn't matter. And I learned that from Dr. Lewis 2 weeks
Cameron?
ago.
you said Cameron?
Daniel Cameron, the Attorney General of Kentucky.
Mitch
The one who
McConnell.
let the killers of
Yeah, Mitch
Breonna
McConnell,
Taylor
right?
go.
Mitch McConnell's granddaughter.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell.
Right.
So the reason why I said it doesn't matter is because I learned from Dr. Lewis 2 weeks ago when he was talking about Obama. And the way he said it is like you understood that he's fulfilling a role. He wasn't put there to exercise some black thinking. He did what they expected him to do as president, and that's it. You know, I would tell people that I didn't have no real problem with Obama, except basic disappointment. Just basic disappointment. He did us proud every time he spoke. He was just so articulate, so composed. He did us proud in that regard. So for children, it was good to let your children see Obama. It was good to see him with a fellow African as a wife and children. That was good. The only, if it's one thing that I could tell you that I didn't like about Obama, and that he went outside, above and beyond the Call of Duty, is when he went to the people in that city in Michigan and drank that water. He drank some water and told the people that the water's fine.
Wow.
The water wasn't fine.
Flint, Michigan.
Flint.
Right.
Wow.
Boy, that's fine.
That's the one thing that I could say, look, I know you gotta read a playbook.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing in that playbook says you have to sacrifice your people and to cover for a racist Republican governor who intentionally did that. Took their good water supply, switched it to a supply of water that's guaranteed to destabilize their babies. That if they drink enough of that water, the lead and all that stuff in the water is going to affect their brain and their ability to compete with other students their age. So that's the one thing that I could say about Obama. He didn't have to do. Actually went there, allegedly had a cup of water in his hand and claimed that was from an everyday common water fountain. And he drank it. On TV in front of everybody. He said the water's fine.
Wow.
But we didn't see the water come out the fountain, right?
No, of course not. So that is unforgiving. To participate in the destruction of black children. Adults didn't drink that water. That water sometimes was brown. Looked like chocolate milk.
Catching fire too. So they catch a fire too. That little man
Yeah.
had caught a fire. The water.
So that's unforgiving with respect to that. So when you think of fear and terror, what was Obama afraid of? To do something like that. That's low. I would just hope deep down that even his wife, knew better and would think less of
You
it.
hope.
I hope.
You always go to the proud of it.
Now, in terms of decency, we know we can do better. We know we can do better, and the onus is for us to be better. Well, what should I do? I have a thing that I say to anybody when people say, whether it's in law enforcement, whether it's in medicine, whether it's in school, whatever walk of life you might be in, whatever discipline that is, I always tell you, do the best that you can at any given moment. What do you do if you're under attack? What do you do if I see a brother down the block being chased or beaten up by whites? Say, do the best you can do at any given time. What decision do you make? Do you feed your children to a system that wants to get them rid of them? Or algorithm, these drugs? What do you do? Do the best thing that you're supposed to do at any given moment. Don't worry about that stipend you're going to get if you feed them to the system. Don't worry about the cost of not giving them a certain vaccine, which is going to hurt them. Make the principled decision and stand by it. I'm going to move fast. There's a lack, I'll just say, disunity, there's a lack. We don't trust each other. You don't go into agreements with white people. A white lawyer, whether he's Jewish or Italian, can tell you anything, and you'll go for it. But when a black lawyer gives you that information, you got a problem with it. A white doctor can tell you, don't eat this, don't eat that, and you won't do it. A black doctor tells you, avoid these foods, these are the proper foods to eat, and you're not going to listen to it. It's just that simple. Somehow the white man's ice is colder than the black man's ice. His sugar is better than the black man's sugar. We got to get better at stuff like that. So I'm just saying, I'm going to stop right here and open up for questions because it's 22 or quarter to. And so I'll stop right there, but just wanted to just say that we have the opportunity to rebuild our African minds. In First World, they used to say, free your African mind. That was a saying, you know thyself, free your African mind. We can rebuild the mind. Now, obviously, in dealing with damaged adults, it's easier to train a child than work on and fight to rebuild a grown person's mind. But, you got to try to save it. You have to try to save it. So you rebuild the African mind. Rebuild trust. Make your word your bond. There was a time where if you gave your word, that was it. If you say, you got my word on that, we ain't got to sign nothing. If I tell Gregory I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to be there. I'm not going to lie. He can count on that. He can take that to the bank. If I tell you, brother, I forgot, man, that money that I owed you, brother, I'm going to give it to you tomorrow. You can bank on it. When do we get into lying to each other like that? We just lying to each other left and right. Rebuild trust in each other. If I tell you I'm going to be there, if I tell you I got something for you, if I tell you you can count on me, believe it. Because I'm going to do my best to make that happen. So with that, I'll end by saying, once you rebuild yourselves, then you're in a better position to fight our clean open enemy. Because all we got is what we have. I do not believe and will never call myself a person of color. I am a black man, I'm an African, or you can say African American, that's fine. But I will not put my future in the hands of a Latino, of an Indian, whether Pakistan or India. Will not believe in an Asian. I've seen them attack us too many times on too many levels. With that, I say race first and free African mind, and I'll stop right there.
Question and answer.
Q&A.
Right.
Okay, what I would like to say is just a few comments to augment what you said.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to Egypt and Sudan and the temples, the first thing they put up on the temple is, man, know thyself. So that's the first thing. What I would say is that there's, as you indicated, there's a concerted effort in this instance with African people globally by white people to keep the information about who you are and to keep the information from you, what you did, and to keep the information from you on what African people globally are doing. So that what it does, it doesn't give you a picture of your strength. So they know that that's very important. And I'll just make a short comment. There was an author, Chris Hedges, you'll know about him on. And in one of his treatises, he ends it. It was a treatise on the end of the American Empire. And in the last two paragraphs, he stated to it, everybody, you have to remember that the white American and the European are Ice Age hunters. So my interpretation to that man, that even though he has a suit on, or he's dressed a certain way, the mindset is whatever you identify that mindset is with an Ice Age hunter. As Dr. Jeffries would say, he called them the ice people.
No doubt, and that's accurate. And Michael Bradley wrote a very famous book, Iceman Inheritance, where he verifies that. He says that the white man, over years, thousands of years, developed out of scarcity, where when we say an ice age, we think that it's cold. We look at it as a little bit of ice on the ground. You've never seen ice 10 feet, 20 feet, 30 feet thick. You've never seen that. Consequently, you don't really have a true concept of what an ice age is. Well, Michael Bradley said all those years living in ice has created a situation in the white man's brain that he's got to grab all he can get, and he's never satisfied because he grew up for thousands of years in scarcity, where the African can walk down the road and scoop a pear or an apple off a tree and keep on moving. Papaya, anything, off a tree. So it's a different mindset. So that's what Dr. Lewis is saying, that there's a mindset afoot that shapes your thinking, and to this day, it's in their genetic code to be that way. Another question?
Questions?
Anybody, a question? Yes, brother.
You mentioned, Hale, Dr. Hale. Did you mention Dr. Hale when you were speaking earlier? Is that
The sister Dr. Hale that ran the, no, I'm talking about Hansberry.
Leo Hansberry.
Dr. William Leo
right,
Hansberry.
which is the father of,
No, that's the uncle. Lorraine Hansberry is his niece.
Okay,
That's her brother's child. That's his brother's child.
that's what I wanted to know tonight.
And she's more, actually, she's more known for doing the Raisin in the Sun.
Absolutely. And other
She's
places.
more known than her uncle
Right.
that changed literally the planet. And as I said, he was Dr. Bennett before Dr. Bennett.
Didn't they live over by Sugar Hill?
She might have. He was in D.C., but she
Yeah.
She's out of Chicago.
she might have out of Chicago, but she did live in New York.
She did live in New York for a
She
while.
did New York. She was writing plays and doing things. So she was in New York for a significant amount
Okay,
of
but
time.
she's out of Chicago, though, right? I think she's out of Chicago.
I don't know when she died, and
No, she died, she was in Harlem when she passed away.
she was in Harlem when she passed away.
Absolutely.
I don't know. She was married to a white guy,
Yeah, she
and
was.
near the end of her life, she was going with a white girl. So
Oh. Wow.
so that's her choice. She really always had that in her, but it was kept secret. And she's more famous than her uncle, and we should be saluting her uncle as opposed to her.
So her uncle was a historian,
Oh, he was the man.
Dr. Leo.
William.
Leo
I heard a book
Hansberry.
by him once too. He was a yellow.
Yeah, yeah.
Just remember that.
He wrote books, Mr. Graves?
Yeah.
He wrote some books, right?
Yeah.
He wrote
Yeah.
books.
He was,
Just,
I'm tempted to say the preeminent scholar,
That's what you said, right?
there were quite a few back then at the
John
turn of the
Hope Franklin,
century.
are they around the same?
Who's that?
Dr. John Hope Franklin, are they around the same era?
They came later.
Okay.
All them guys that you might mention that were awesome came later. Chancellor William, John Hope Franklin, all of them came later.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think the police departments in New York and across the other 49 states should be defunded, or should we just look at is it another way to look at this thing? I think we need law and order. I think we do need police in society, in this country, but I don't know, defunding, what's your feeling about that?
Okay, it's interesting that you said that, because if NYPD has a $6 billion budget and you take $1 billion away, does that change their character?
no.
Does it change their
Makes
mode of
them angry,
operation?
actually.
Not really, I wouldn't
We
think.
have to admit that some things that the police department does is with intentionality. That's not going to change from defunding. If anything, that gives them an opportunity to go fishing when you need them the most.
That's what's happening.
There are ways to correct police behavior. And some of those ways we have at our disposal right now. Tish James is the top law enforcement person in this state. We just don't look at her that way because she don't do anything. She's the Attorney General of New York State.
Right, right.
Do you know that she has the ability to put the NYPD or any other police department in New York State in receivership?
Wow.
Do you know that these district attorneys can all charge the police department with murder when they kill somebody? Have we ever asked why district attorneys don't do that? We go the easy way out. As I said, claim no easy victories. Don't mask difficulties. If that's difficult, admit that it's hard and look for the right answers. So defunding the police not going to change whether they're going to go upside your head or not. Whether they're going to shoot you in the back while you're running away. It didn't help Omar Edwards. Omar Edwards was a black cop. Got shot in the back twice, and they claim they shot him in his chest. And this is a black cop leaving the precinct after work. and somebody allegedly was stealing his car.
So your answer is behavior should be changed.
Behavior modification.
I tell you what, do you believe behavior should be changed?
I'm asking you, that's why I asked you.
Yes, it should be changed.
Okay, that's why I asked you the
Absolutely.
question.
Right now, as we speak, the behavior inside of NYPD and other police departments is unacceptable.
It should be checked.
Eleanor Bumpers was killed. I mentioned it last week on Community Cop. Eleanor Bumpers was 66, 67 years old,
Yes.
300 pounds, chronic arthritis grandmother, and was 2 months behind in her rent. Do you think that it was acceptable for them to bust down the door and shoot her twice with a shotgun?
Wow. 12
Because she allegedly waved the knife at them and told them to get out of her house. Does that even sound like a police matter?
No.
Now,
The housing authorities deal with that, and they should have called her daughter.
Right.
They had her daughter's number. How does it become a police matter in the first place? The police are not there to remove people from their apartments for night shift. That's not their job. So obviously the behaviors have to change. Omar Edwards, the police commissioner, got on TV with the mayor and lied and said these were just two good guys doing their job. Omar Edwards, they claim, turned around with a gun. It was never proven. They lying that he turned around with a gun. 100 blacks in law enforcement found out he was shot in the back. The police commissioner definitely knows the difference in an entrance wound and an exit wound.
That's right.
He doesn't need to be a doctor like Dr. Lewis to know that.
Yeah,
So, of course, their behavior has to change. Name a white grandmother, 66 years old, with chronic arthritis, that's been killed by NYPD. If white police officers went to a door and bust down the door and seen a white woman standing there with a knife, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna walk out. They're not gonna stay in there. First of all, they have ballistic shields. This is ESU, this ain't regular cops. This is emergency service cops. That's who the cops call. Okay? They could have had their ballistic shields, and let's say worst case scenario, she come at them with a knife, knock her down.
Right.
With the shield.
Right. She's
These are
300
body
pounds.
shields.
Right.
She's 300 pounds, chronic arthritis.
She can't move fast.
All you gotta do is, tap her.
Tap her.
Not the-
And then when she go down, take the knife and cuff her if you gotta do that. If you're gonna arrest her,
Right.
okay, fine. That's better than shooting her twice with a shotgun.
12 gauge.
well,
One glass blew off her hand, the second one dead center in her chest.
I think the biggest problem with the cops is that when you got them white cops living in Long Island and come and they put them in our community and they say that they think that we're the evils of society. You understand? I think the way they solve that, if you work for the city, you gotta live in the city, like they was gonna have at one time.
That's not gonna change everything.
That's a political decision. The legislators allow counties outside of New York, they can recruit in those areas. So all the way up there in Orange County, Long Island, and all those places. Obviously, if you made a city rule that just the 5 boroughs, and you would have to be there till you grandfathered in at least 5 years, even that would change things. Even if you allow people from way upstate New York to come here to get a job, then give some extra points to somebody from Brooklyn or Harlem, or somewhere like that for when they take the test and move them up on the list. But there's a lot of things you can do, but those are political decisions. And obviously, the state legislature makes sure that cops can come from anywhere and come to New York City and get a job. But you know, that's just a political decision.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Just to make a couple of comments, as long as we're trying to exchange information of our experiences. Dr. Ben always told us that Africans are distinctly different people. Now, we know medically there are differences among so-called white people and so-called non-white people. And you listen, if you understand Cress Welsing, she says, some of the behaviors of white against African or based people is because, it's what she said, if I didn't get it right, is because they have a fear, being that their numbers are so small on the globe,
Right.
they have a fear of their being extinct. That's what she said. And so in order to try to stop it, they attack African people, specifically the male, because they don't want to be extinct. Now, you can argue that question whichever way you want to do it, okay? When I started my first trip to Vanuatu, my wife and I, and the 2 children, and we bought a lot of supplies. We go to Kennedy Airport. And I said, why all these white people getting on the plane to go to Australia? But I knew the answer. Because they killed off your people in Australia. That's how they got there. Professor Gerald Horne, in his latest book on, I forgot the exact title, on the coming, or the beginning of the United States, they asked him the same question you're asking the brother here. Why are their behavior? And he's told you right away, Dr. Horne, in his last book, in the year of 1776. He said, everything you see here today in their behavior to people of color, specifically us, it all started and it never stopped when those handful of white property owners wrote the Constitution, that fundamental position that you're in. And you ask him why? And you don't ask where's the 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million indigenous people that once roamed here? Almost extinct. Do we ask why? The millions of indigenous people who are up in Canada, they're mostly gone. What happened to the 20 or 30 million here? What happened to those in Australia? And when we went to Vanuatu in 1978, the population in these 90 islands, size of New Jersey scattered, was about 200,000. They said before the English came, there were so many people living in these islands, these Vanuatu, that they would shout and they could bring the birds down. So what Chris Hedges is telling you, and he's telling you something, but he didn't have time to fill in the blanks. You look at what happened to the indigenous in Australia, New Zealand, United States, Canada. So they wiped the population down of Vanuatu that you saw here, the chief was here and the prime minister's sister was here, to 250,000 from millions. So by the time we got there in 1978, they had 250,000 people left, but they said had millions. So you have to understand the behavior of this human being that you call a white man. Ever since he was able to get out of the icebox, what has he done?
Kill.
Even the white Russian, Putin's people, though he's mixed, they have 7 million square miles. Those white people who run Russia, they knocked off tens of millions of people of color.
Yes.
So how, we're asking these questions because we haven't reviewed the history. And one last thing, the Chinese on mainland China who wants to take Taiwan, you go on the internet and you'll find who were the indigenous people of Taiwan before the Chinese asked for. The same people in Vanuatu and the same people look just like you. So you have to understand there was a period of time when the white man got out of his cave. And what did he do? And you think because you're in the United States that you're going to be treated any different? I always tell a joke. And the police officer bring the police into the headquarters. The police officer killed 4. This did not happen. He killed 4 tourists in downtown New York. And they pull him in and ask him, why did you kill these tourists? Didn't we tell you you're, and they were white tourists. Didn't we tell you you're not supposed to kill white people? Guy said, I'm colorblind. And you ask him why you are a target? So you have to understand how profound this thing is when he's talking to you. You think because a policeman coming from this place or that place and you're forgetting what he's telling you about your mind? And then I talk to white people sometimes. One white person asked me, what do you call yourself? I said, I'm an African American. African to identify where I came from. An American owning my citizenship. I asked them, how come none of you Europeans ever want to call themselves where they came from? Everyone I talk, I'm an American, I'm an American, I'm American. None of them ever asked it. Why don't you say I'm an Italian American? Or I'm an Irish American? Is it because they're not proud of where they came from? Or is it because they don't want to be identified with some foreigner that say this is our land?
Right.
You know, we live with the psychology of these white people. We've all suffered. So you gotta ask them some better questions than what you're asking about. You know, if the guy didn't live in this zone and that zone.
Well, quickly, there was a police officer who stopped a white woman, and this is no joke, this really happened. Stopped a white woman and asked her for her license and registration. She got scared and nervous and was hesitant to reach for it. She said, I'm scared to give it to you, I'm scared to reach for it. Do you know what the police officer told her? He said, why are you afraid? You're white. We only kill black people. That's what the police officer told her. Now, let me just say something to dramatize what Dr. Lewis said with respect to whites killing Aborigines in various lands. This is a quote from Cecil Rhodes that's right here in my notes. Cecil Rhodes, in his Confession of Faith in 1877, states, I contend that we are the finest race in the world, and that the more that we are to inhabit, the better places for the human races. Just fancy those parts that are inhabited by the most despicable specimens of the human family. I contend that every acre added to our territory means the future of birth of some more of the English race. Why should we not form a secret society with but one object, the furtherance of the British Empire, and to bring the whole uncivilized world under British rule? Poverty under our flag is better than wealth under another flag. You got that? This is the arrogance of white supremacy, where he's saying, if there's a land that can be taken, we're going to take it. He made that crystal clear. If land can be taken, we're going to take it. And why should we not take advantage of uncivilized people? And now they might be more civilized than the British. He mean, if we got a gun and you don't have a gun, we got you. We're going to take it. Which is what he did. Which is what they did, the British. So he said, life under British rule, even if you're in poverty, is better than having wealth in another land that's not under the British Empire. That's ridiculous.
That's
But
that's what the
that's
slave masters used to say. My slaves are happy. My slaves are good. You know, they happy. They would have it no other way.
But
Right.
what do you think you are in this country, or any under white rule? What do you think they look at you at? When you go, and I was in Britain, United States and Britain, it's the only countries I've been to where you have nothing but police. Go to any African country, go to the Caribbean, you can't find a policeman. They got X amount of policemen based upon your population. Why? Because they love you?
If I should die, Paul McKay. Oh, okay, so in closing, nothing that we've discussed tonight is accidental. The murders of the Aborigines, which Dr. Lewis talked about, the enslavement of our people was done with intentionality and purpose. The continued oppression that black men, women, and children face every day is done with purpose. And they're not going to walk away from this. They're going to hold on to it as long as we can. We can change some things overnight. That's what I was dealing with primarily. I wasn't talking about the gun and facing tanks and all this stuff. I was saying we have the power to stop calling ourselves the N-word. We can stop beating our women. We can say, yes sir, yes ma'am, yes brother, yes sister. We can start doing that tonight without permission from the white man. So I'm just saying, the things we can do better, let's do it better. If we can unify and shake each other's hand and embrace. And I say to you with a surety, my word is my bond. I will not lie to you. You will not lie to me. I will trust you. We will walk together. We will fight together. Then I'm just saying we'll be better if we can do that.
Being that, read all the books, that, question is, being that they sold us, they raped us, they killed us, and they always feel that they are supposed to be in total domination of us. Knowing historically what we have done with the pyramids, with the Moors, those the greatness, how they broke us down and just, how can a great people like that succumb to this, that they feel that they always going to be able to control us, they break their behind to control us.
Because the reason why they believe it, and they've been successful so far, we can't deny it, is because, remember, there was a time where we had chains on us. There was a time where they had overseers with rifles patrolling us. There was a time where you had to work all day without being paid. There was a time where they could take a black woman's baby and sell it, as they say, down the river. She would never see it again. Because now you can raise your own baby. Because now there's no chains on your feet and on your hands. We have the illusion that we are free. We have never been able to successfully protect our women.
Never.
We have not been able to protect our children. Consequently, ACS can take your child anytime they want to. Anytime they want to, they can move on your family. What you gonna do? Can you depend on your neighbors? Can you depend on your block association? Can you depend on a black organization? to take up arms and defend you. Well, why can't we do that in 2020 when in 1925, Dr. O.C.N. Sweet, he was a medical doctor, was able to not only defend his house when he moved into a white neighborhood of Detroit, an exclusive neighborhood, and they started pillaging his house and doing things. Well, he defended himself with some family members and the brotherhood of his church, and shot back and killed a white person who was outside of his house after the police left, because the police had a line there during the day, but at one point in the night they left. Well, how did Dr. O.C.N. Sweet organize black folks to feel it was part of their responsibility to protect them? Look up the Sweet trial.
This is in 1925?
1925 in an exclusive area of Detroit.
Really? Exclusive area of Detroit? Okay.
Yes, as a matter of
What was his
fact, O.C.N. Sweet.
Spell it, please.
O-S-S-I-A-N, Sweet, S-W-E-E-T. Or you could just put in the Sweet trial and it'll pop up. 1925 Detroit.
You know the difference is? Back then, black folks felt like they had something to fight for, something to believe in. Today, they don't care.
Well, you're right, but what was better then is that they understood the enemy. You gotta remember, they just came out of slavery and Reconstruction.
Right.
They was clear on who the enemy is.
Right.
You think that the average black person now say who the enemy is? They're gonna say that N from down the street, or that B over there.
You
It's
made
giving
that-
me fever.
You made that clear when you addressed the brother about the N-word.
So I'm just saying, there's a lot of confusion with respect to our open enemy. Back then, 100 years ago, we were clear on who the enemy is. Try to get the brotherhood of your church now to defend you when the Klan is coming to your house.
They tell you to go by election.
Good luck. If you got a church that'll do that, good luck. Dr. O.C.N. Sweet did it. You look up the Sweet trial. Did you look it up already?
I'm gonna look it up at home, I wrote it down
Okay.
in my notes.
Cool.
Wrote it down in my
Look it
notes.
up. So I'm just saying, we can do better because we've done that before. We produced Martin Delany. We produced Henry Howland Garnett. You know, even in the deep parts of slavery, look at what Nat Turner did. Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser.
Right.
Look at what they did. We can do better. It's in the annals of history. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Look at what we produced with Adam Clayton Powell. Look at these elected officials we have now. And compare them to Adam.
There's no comparison.
So, I'm just saying we can do better. We got to think higher. And, of course, be trustworthy. And it starts with not lying to each other. Don't lie, tell no lies, mask no difficulties. Just be straight up with each other. And say, brother, you know I can't make it, or I can make it, I'm going to be there. Just give your word. Again, I'm just breaking it down simply. There was a time where your word meant something. Now, obviously, some of us are so far removed from that, they say, what's the big deal? I lied to him, I lied to everybody. There was a time, Dr. Lewis knows it, there was a time when your word meant something.
Word is bond. That's what they used to say.
Yeah, when they said my word is bond, you could count on it, you could take that to the bank. Now, lying is in fashion. You're not going to be trustworthy. And the people that lie to you more than anybody are white people, but you believe them, but you reject your brother and say he's a no good liar. So I'm just saying, always do your best. That's what you do, no matter what the situation is. Do the best that you can do at any particular time, and we'll be better and we'll benefit from that.
Mackey's group would like to thank African Helping Africans. Would like to thank everybody that came and supported us. The lecture was excellent and
funny thing about it, ain't nobody was talking about, worrying about no election, because Maddox said, there ain't no election gonna help us. Mike laid it down. We're gonna be back here in 2 weeks. I will text everybody and let you know who the speaker's gonna be, and give yourself a hand.